Good morning, I'm Barbara Bryant, and welcome. This morning I get to turn the tables, so to speak. My guest normally is the one asking questions as the host of the Lyle James Show that airs each Wednesday night at 9:30 on Insight 98. Lyle is also an accomplished comedian, so I'm sure we'll have a great time this morning. Good morning, Lyle.
Good morning. I'm looking over there.
No, I'm here.
How are you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good, good.
First of all, how did you get started in TV?
Well, you know, I was a child.
Well, let's hope.
So my first time on TV was on it was on WHAS, it was called the T-Bar-B Show.
I remember the T-Bar-B Show,
and
yes.
Randy Atcher and Cactus, of course they had cartoons in between. We'd sit on their lap and, am I doing, oh there we go, that's better. And then, and say, you know, happy birthday and stuff like that. And that's how I first got started. And I knew that was my calling.
Oh, really?
So I kind of, I always had asthma growing up, and so I was stuck inside a lot. So I watched a lot of talk shows, Dinah Shore, Michael Douglas, but my absolute favorite was, oh wow, look, was Merv Griffin. And he would always come out on stage, and every night he would open his vest or his jacket, he would have a different lining. And that's when stars looked like stars. I mean, they would come out, their hair would be coiffured, makeup would be perfect, and you know. And I said, one of these days, I want to do what he's doing. So, you know, I got busy with life, and kind of late in life, I decided I was nearly 40 when I got started, and so I got started doing my show on Insight. So that's how I got started.
Now, you were a comedian before you were doing stage
I started doing comedy about the same time that I started doing my show. I kind of tried my wings out. I worked at the Comedy Caravan for a couple of years, so I got to meet a lot of big comedians. And then when I started doing my show, in the early days, I would tape it. I would use their stage before I started using the studio. So after the show, sometimes I'd say, would you be my guest on the show? And they said, yeah. Tim Wilson was on my show, Etta May and Monique Marvez, and a lot of Bob and Tom favorites, you know, on the radio.
Right.
So that's how I first got started.
So you always then thought that the format would be a talk show instead of a comedian type? Well,
I mean, it's kind of like two different things that I do. On my TV show, I really don't do comedy. I kind of like you. I interview people. But when I'm on stage, I do a lot of comedy. So,
well, I noticed I've watched your show several times, and I've noticed you have like 3 guests.
Yeah, we cram them in there. Yeah, we sure do. And comedians are fighting to be on my show now. So.
Comedians, well, I guess because that's what you're known as.
Yeah, I've had a lot of. I've had the legendary Gayle King. She's been on my show. Robbie Bartlett, she's a local jazz singer. She's been on my show, and historian Tom Owens. He's been on. Of course, he's in the Metro Council.
Right.
And the late Reverend Lewis Coleman was on my show. That was probably the scariest show because I don't know. People said, "Oh, don't have him on your show." I said, "Why not?" He said, "He's too controversial." So I was a little nervous when I first had him, but he wasn't anything like the news media portrayed him, and he was so nice and calm, and he was very easy to interview. I was really surprised. So.
I was going to ask you, do you stay away from the controversial guests, so to speak?
Well, I guess I do, except when I had...
Except for him.
Yeah, and sometimes I do, but it's mostly comedians, I guess. And I'm trying to get more actors on the show, too. They're kind of fun.
Actors.
Local actors.
Local.
Yeah.
I was going to say, how are you going to get these?
Yeah, well.
Derby time.
There was that kid over in Indiana. He used to have a little show, and he was just out in the wilderness somewhere in Indiana, and he would have them. They'd come over in the middle of the night. They'd be traveling through, and he would just pester them.
Until they did an interview with him?
I think one of them was like Kevin Bacon. He stopped at his house like 3 o'clock in the morning. His mother would make him take his shoes off when he came in the house to be on this kid's show.
Oh, wow, that's funny. That's
maybe that's what I should do.
Get more guests, actors. Do you write your own scripts, or do they prepare them, or?
On the TV, I wing it. We don't have teleprompters and all that, stuff like that. So I guess it's kind of like what we discussed earlier. Every situation a little different, so you kind of know going into what you may ask, but it's fine. Do
you plan a theme for each show, or do you just whoever's available that comes in to be interviewed? Or?
Yes, I try to plan it somewhat. I'll get on the phone a couple weeks out and I'll call and say, what are you doing this week? Can you be on the show? And this is when you need to be there. And then I'll write down a few questions, but I really don't have them sitting in front of me. I pretty much wing it, just like when I'm on stage. I notice a lot of comedians, a lot of these young guys, they come out there and they have a whole script. They put it on their bar stool and then they'll pick it up and I'm like,
oh, look at their jokes.
When they're on stage, I'm like, how can you do that? So I don't know.
What do you think of the Jay Leno,
wow,
Conan?
Isn't that something? I think they should. I think that you and I should. I think we should go in there and just take over and do the show
I'd like
together.
to see that. Well, now Conan was a comedian, wasn't he at first?
Yes.
Also was Jay Leno.
Yes,
though.
he sure was. Yeah.
So, and then they ended up on talk shows.
They had the gift to be able to make people, and that's the most important thing when you, of course, as you know, to when you have a guest, to make them feel at home, and so you can ask them stuff.
Right, and have them open up to you.
Yeah.
Then you watched TV growing up. Do you say Merv Griffin was the most influential person as far as watching the TV shows?
Yes, I really liked the way that he made his guest feel, and it was a variety show. You know, he would sing too. Of course, Michael Douglas would sing on his show too, and a lot of the new shows don't do that kind of stuff anymore. You know, of course, Ellen DeGeneres always comes out and dances.
Oh, I know. Yeah,
she's fun.
Yeah, and then she's going to be on The Idol.
Oh, that's right.
As a judge. So
that should be fun because she's very witty.
I know, and then too with Simon leaving.
Yeah.
That'll be an interesting.
And you just love to hate him.
Oh, I know. He's one of those characters. It makes you wonder what the show will be like after he leaves. So.
Yeah.
So.
I hope it doesn't go down because of that, but.
Oh no. But let me ask you: do you find it difficult in booking guests?
I did the first couple years. I did. I do a lot of reruns and stuff, and then it was like pulling teeth the first couple years. Like, I don't know, they wouldn't show up, and then I always kept a backup tape just in case. And then it's the last couple years, it's got easier and easier. A few years back, I was on the cover of The Scene, and that really helped me.
Get
surprisingly.
Your show out there.
A funny thing happened the other day. I was my worst. I was painting in the house, and I had to go to the store to get some dog food. Old dirty T-shirt and torn jeans and everything, hair all crazy. I go in to get the dog food, and this older couple recognized, there's that guy on TV. And everybody turns around to look. I'm like, oh my God, I look my world's worst.
I know, you can't go out of the house without looking professional anyway.
So.
I know. Who's your favorite guest so far?
Oh gosh.
In 11 years. Do you have a favorite guest?
I love doing them all. Etta Mae was really fun. Because
and she was here in town.
She was recently. She did 2 weeks at the Caravan. When she interviews as that character, of course that's not really her in real life, but she keeps that character going.
She really does,
yeah,
throughout.
So that was really fun. She's
something else.
Oh yeah.
Well, you were saying that a lot of your guests are comedians, so.
They are, yeah. Bernie Lovers has been on. Of course, he plays the guitar. He's wrote a lot of songs, and I think he's taken a little sabbatical from comedy. He's in liquor sales now, I think, but he was always fun. And Monique Marvez, she's very voluptuous, and she would wear these really sexy outfits, and then surprisingly, she was hilarious too. So
we're going to take a short break, and then when we come back, talk more about your show and your format.
Okay.
Because I find it interesting, interviewing three in a half hour. That, to me, that's amazing. So we'll take a short break. When we come back, we're going to have more from Lyle James, so stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Barbara Bryant Show. I'm Barbara Bryant, and with me is Lyle James.
hello again.
Hello again. Well, we were talking about your show and having three guests on one time.
Yes.
Have you ever thought of doing it, maybe one or two? Or?
I have done that, and sometimes when guests don't show up, you really have to stretch that half hour out. I'm like, sometimes you're grasping for straws. Like, what am I going to ask them next?
You're sitting there and the wheels are turning.
Camera's still rolling.
Well, now, do they edit yours also, or?
No. We just straight tape, and then it's then she puts in the disclaimer before and after, and then we're done.
Oh, okay.
So
I was going to say, though, with three guests, I know I have one, of course, or sometimes two, but it's a job to get all this together.
Well, we have a little tiny green room off to the side, so they come in, and then I'll get the first guest on. We get them all mic'd up, and then we tape it, and then they're done. We unmic them, and they go their merry way, and then next one comes in, and she resets the cameras if they're too taller or shorter, and then we just keep going.
And you've been doing this for 11 years.
11 years. Love every minute of it.
Oh, yeah. I do, too. I enjoy it very much. It just fascinates me that you don't prepare, so to speak.
Well, I guess I don't, I don't have a teleprompter. But now, in the early days, I thought I'd try to get fancy, and have the cue cards. But I look like a used car salesman because I was like, welcome to the show. I'm Lyle James, your host. And I thought, okay, we can't do this anymore. This is not good. So.
Well, that's interesting, though. Being a comedian, do you have your guests or people just phoning you and telling you jokes or wanting to be on the show? Or everyone thinks they're a comedian?
Everyone thinks they're a comedian, yeah. I guess... the last couple of years, I have learned how to deal with hecklers. That was my biggest fear, because like when you go see a play, you don't sit there and start, throwing jokes at Shakespeare, to make it funnier. I mean,
Right.
And so I have seen headliners walk off stage before when they get too many going on until they calm the audience. I've seen people removed from the audience when they get out of hand. Whoa.
Oh, well, definitely. Well, with your TV show, do they send you jokes to tell on TV, or do they want you to? Or
no, I write my own stuff, mostly from life experiences. My day job, I'm a hairstylist.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I do that, and then I'm a commissioner of a small 6-class city. Two different worlds. But so I have a lot of beauty school disasters I like to talk about. The time I ripped this poor girl's eyebrow off.
Oh, no, you didn't.
She was on her way to her senior dinner dance. She'll never forget me. But stuff like that, stuff like that goes on, and
you're still a hairdresser.
yeah, I'm good now. I'm really good at eyebrow waxes.
Okay.
Once you learn from those disasters, and there was the time I made this girl's hair green. Oh.
My
we know the color wheel now. So. So I talk about stuff like that, and growing up, I was a strict Jehovah's Witness. I make fun of stuff like that growing up. I'm no longer involved with that, but life stories are so interesting and funny. So
well, and I think the audience loves to hear it's happened to you too. You know, it's something that's happened in their life, or they want to hear what's happened to you anyway.
Yes, absolutely.
Be good or bad.
Yeah.
They prefer bad sometimes.
Yeah. In the early days, my comedy was a little blue because I watched a lot of the comedians and they were kind of vulgar. But I'll never forget the first time I went on stage. The stage manager said, "Don't forget the shock factor. You got 3 minutes." I'm like, "Okay, what's the shock factor?" And he says, "Oh, you can just say whatever you want to, but just remember that if you keep cursing over and over, it gets old." So I was watching some of the comedians. I'm like, it does get old. So if I ever say anything kind of blue on TV, I've learned to only say it once, and it has more of a impact.
You sent me something in the email that talked about your first time on TV, or
oh yes,
you'll have to tell that story.
I have
funny.
the original show somewhere in the archives. My brother drew this Christmas tree on this canvas, and this lady that I worked with, she was a hairdresser, and she was a novice comedian. She went on, and she kept telling me these one-liners, and then I brought my Cocker Spaniel on, and so she sat in my lap, and I sang Christmas songs to her, and and that's how I got started. And I had this bright red blazer on, and people remember that to this day, and that's when I said I looked like a used car salesman. So I've tried to improve over the years, you know, so that's how I got started in the business.
Now, on your show, do you ever just do a comedy act?
Not yet. Now, I have done a special at the Derby Dinner Playhouse a few years back, and so that's my next goal this year, is to do a special and borrow a stage somewhere, maybe actors or something, and do a show and air it. So
a comedy show.
Comedy, maybe an interview, kind of a variety thing. So.
Well, have you ever thought about setting your show up like, say, a Jay Leno or a Conan O'Brien show, where you do the maybe 10 minutes of comedy?
Oh, the monologue,
yeah, and then have your guests?
Well, actually, I have talked to a fellow that's in. I can't think of the name of the company. They do shows around town, and we're kind of toying with that idea of doing that, a live stage show.
Oh, and just not, and taping it maybe and showing it on your show?
Yeah.
Because I would think that you would be more apt to do something like that, a monologue, than have the 3 guests. Or.
Well, I would probably, I would like to do that. And I'm working on it. My goal this year, too, is to get in commercials. I want to get an agent, and because even though I'm no spring chicken, my age group is very marketable in commercials. I see a lot of older folks. I'm like, I could do that. So that's my goal this year, too. So.
Oh, well, you have to find you an agent. I know, or get with an agency.
Yeah. So.
Might be able to do that and do voiceovers, or, like you said, just be on different commercials.
Yeah, Craig Morton, he's a comedian. He does a lot of voices. He was on my show. He's hilarious. If you've never seen that comedian, he comes in town at least once a year. So
are you a regular then out at the Comedy Caravan?
Not so much there now, but the new club, the Improv, I'm there quite a bit.
Now, where's that?
That's on 4th Street Live. It's on the 2nd floor.
And you were telling me you just performed there a couple weeks ago?
I was just there last night and I was in a contest. And then I'll probably be there in a couple more weeks, too. So.
Oh, well, that sounds like fun. So you really stay busy with hairdressing and
I do.
Comedy and your talk show.
Yes.
Out of the 3, which do you prefer?
TV.
Do you?
Yeah, I love it. It's in my blood.
Well, you've been doing it for 11 years.
I know. It just seems strange that it's been that long. So.
What type of guests do you have coming up on your show?
Let's see. Well, I've had, you've heard of Mark Klein. Mm-hmm. He's a guest on my show, and, oh gosh, there's a whole list coming up. Eric Kimbrough will be on soon, probably. Bobby D. Pasquale's local fella. He's pretty funny. And I need to get some actors on there, too.
Good luck. If you find them here, because they're usually so busy.
Yeah. So.
If they're not on stage or they're gone to New York or wherever.
Well,
travel quite a bit.
You're going to be on my show.
I'm going to be on your show, yes.
I'm excited.
Yeah. I'll tell you right now, I do not like being interviewed. So it'll be interesting. It'll be fun. So if someone wants to talk to you about being a guest or something, how can they get in touch with you?
They can get in touch with me on my email, lylejaneshow@hotmail.com. I'm also on Facebook, so they could contact me that way. So.
Very good. Well, I want to thank you for coming in this morning.
Well, thank you, Barbara.
Let me interview you, because you had said that you really don't like to be interviewed either. We'd rather be on this side of the screen here. So, well, thank you again for being here.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Join me tomorrow as I have more interesting conversations with fascinating people. I hope you will plan to be here then. It's a new way to wake up in the morning. Have a great day.